Alright, for the rest of this blaster engine rebuild I'm going to do, here's the flywheel side. Take out these two screws. It's about that size, Phillips screwdriver. I put the screwdriver in, then give it a whack with a hammer, and then actually put a wrench on the handle of the screwdriver like this to crack them loose, just to reduce the risk of stripping them. There's one of the screws. And there's the other one. Now I'm going to take off that flywheel nut. I just put it on there so I wouldn't lose it. Now I'm going to hammer out the shift arm. I think that it might actually be a little bit bent. I sprayed some WD-40 on it and then hammered at this end to get it to come out the other end. Here's the clutch side. Kickstarter. Just unhook that spring. And it slides right out of place. Just to show you guys where everything mounts up. The spring's going to sit right there in that hole. And then that part right there is going to rest on top of where that spring mounts. So that's how the Kickstarter goes together. Now I'm going to remove that with some circle clip pliers. I have to unbend that, and then I'm going to wedge a rag in here so that those gears can't move, and then I'm going to undo that nut and take all these gears off. Alright, for the gear that sits right here behind the clutch, the layout's going to be a washer, the gear, another washer, and then the circle clip that you remove with the pliers. I got those two 19mm nuts loose. As you can see, it chewed up that rag quite a bit. I ended up using my really long breaker bar with a deep 19mm socket, and then I just held the crank with my hand with the rag wedged in there, set it on the ground, and then was able to break this nut loose like that. So I'm going to pull these apart. Alright, there's the bolt taken off, or the nut taken off, and the primary drive gear. There's your crankshaft key. That came off first, that came off underneath with that end facing towards the crank, that end facing out towards the nut. Now I'm going to remove the gear here, put the key in with that, pull the gear off. I will clean those all up before I reinstall them. I'm not going to put them back in there with cloth on them. And that's that taken apart. And that one just slides off. Once again, it has a key. Same kind of deal. Set those aside. I pulled off the bracket, which mounts right here with these two screws, and then the bracket that mounts right there with that screw. There they are. Now I'm going to take out the clutch arm. Basically just pop that spring off right there. Just slide it around and the whole arm just slides right out. I went through and loosened all of the screws that hold the two cases together. There's one there, one there, one there, one there, 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 and there. Went through and loosened all those, and I bought the puller, but the thing just pulled apart by hand. So I'm just going to finish pulling it apart. And there's the cases split. I didn't even need to use the puller, just pulled it apart by hand. It wasn't very difficult. Basically the hardest part was this right here. It didn't want to slip through the sprocket rubber gasket right there, but it wasn't very difficult at all to get apart. Not much to it. You got your transmission, your shift drum, your shift forks, all that kind of stuff. I'm gonna give this stuff a bath in gas. You can see where the Yamaha bond's coming apart a little bit. That's the reason that we tore this engine apart, was because it was eating transmission fluid. So there was definitely a leak somewhere along this line right here where the crank and the transmission meet. So I'm gonna get these cleaned up and get them back together. This piece right here basically acts as a counterweight. It just sits in there and spins around. Now for the other side, basically I took apart the shift star, which sits right there. There's a bolt and this piece, which basically sits in there like that. You take that off, and then there's the other piece to it. There's the shift star. The shift star was just held in with this washer, this key, and then that screw right there, and that goes in right here. Take off the spring, take off the shift star, and then I gave this a couple taps with a rubber mallet, and the whole shift drum pops out of the other end. There's the shift drum removed. And then there's the transmission. I also took apart this piece right here, which basically rides on there like that with a mounting dowel that goes in there. It just slid apart. I took that apart before I took the shift drum out. And then basically the whole transmission just slides apart from here. Now I'm going to go through and replace the seals on the case. I got the clutch seal right here. That's where the clutch arm goes, so I'm going to pop that one out and put the new one in. I'm going to pop out the shift shaft seal, replace that. I replaced the stator crank seal, and now I'm going to replace the crank seal on the other side.